Hey guys, it's Michelle, and I have finished reading 3 more books, so I am here with 3 little book discussions. First up, I read What Everybody Is Saying by Joe Navarro. He is a former FBI agent. He grew up in Cuba, but moved to the United States when he was around 6 years old, I think it was. He didn't speak any English, and eventually he became a non-verbal communications expert. So, this book was pretty cool. Of course, it's nonfiction. I used it for the 2015 Read Harder Challenge as a self-help book, and it really taught me a lot about what specific gestures or postures or actions can mean from individuals. There were 2 kind of important parts that he really did a good job of getting across in here. One is that you need a baseline for somebody before you can interpret any of their behaviors, because maybe they have some kind of personality quirk or sensory issue or something. So you really need that baseline before you can assume anything about their gestures and nonverbal communication. His other important point was it's impossible to detect deception or lying or dishonesty, but what you can detect is discomfort, and there are many, many, many ways that people can show their discomfort. One of the ones that stands out the most to me was one that he calls blocking, and recently my principal at the school took a promotion and will no longer be our principal, and I'm devastated by that news. I'm so sad to see her go. And in the meeting where that was announced, I found myself blocking. I had my legs crossed, trying to keep that information from getting to me. I had my arms crossed across my body, and I had one of my hands on my face, and I was turned away. So my body was just screaming out, I don't like this information. I'm uncomfortable with this information. So that's kind of how it's worked. I'm starting to notice things in my own behavior first. I'm not so great at picking up on those things with other people, but I have a feeling that will change over time. This is kind of the thing that kind of has to simmer and soak in. And so I'm hoping to reread this a couple years down the road. I'm sure I will gain a lot more from that. There are lots of pictures in the book that help you with the different gestures, so you can kind of compare and contrast. Let me see if I can find a good one. There's some stuff in there about shoulder shrugging, different parts of the body. So this page is kind of fascinating. Talks about what the different ways of putting your hands on your hip might mean, and where the thumbs are is very important in that case. So just all kinds of interesting things like that in the book. And I did end up giving this 4 stars. Really got a lot of good information out of it. The next book that I read was for 2 reasons. I started reading it for Japanese June. It is by a Japanese author. And then I also updated my 2015 Read Harder Challenge, and I replaced the book I had for books set in Asia with this one. It's called Dendera, and the author is Yuya Sato. And this is just kind of a weird book. It's, I guess, sort of a folktale type of a thing. So it starts out, and you're in the past. You're not sure how far in the past, but there seems to be like no modern technology, no electricity or anything like that. You're in this Japanese village, and, well, actually you're not. Your Kayu Saito is whose viewpoint you are reading from, and she has just turned 70. And in this village, the tradition is when you turn 70, you're a burden on the village. And so this is just their tradition. The family escorts that person up the mountain where it is cold and nothing grows, and basically escorts them up there to die. And she's known this her whole life, that this was coming. This is the way things would be. This is how it is for everyone when they turn 70. And then you get to go on to their version of paradise when you do this. So she falls asleep as she's like freezing, and she's totally okay with it and at peace with it. So she is very shocked when she is awakened in the care of some women who are older than her, and they should have passed away on the mountain long before her. So she's very confused. Well, it turns out they've kind of built their own little society on the other side of the mountain, and they come rescue people who have been brought up to die, or at least they try to, and most of the time they're successful. They only rescue the men, however. So there's this society of elderly women living on the mountain, and they have lots of challenges to face. The biggest of which is a mother bear who is starving and keeps trying to get into their food stores and causes all kinds of issues. This book was just weird. For a while, I wasn't sure anyone was going to survive the thing. This author is not scared to kill off characters, that is for sure. The reading experience was really strange for me. There were times I was like, this is so good. I am loving this. And then a few pages over, I would be like, this is complete rubbish. So it was this really strange thing going on. Later, I was able to pinpoint the parts about the village of elderly women. I was totally into the parts with the bear. I was totally into. There was some talk in the village, though. There was a faction of the women who wanted to go back and attack the village. That was the portion that I had trouble with. And then at times, the characters just kind of went, I don't know, it was like the author's like train of thought on them just kind of got a little bit off, and they became very one-dimensional just for a few pages or something. So it had some issues. But I was very invested in this story, and there was no way I was putting it down. There was no way I was not going to finish it. I wanted to know what happened, and what choices were going to be made, and what impact it was going to have. And it was totally fascinating, and yet totally disappointing at the same time. So I ended up giving it a 3-star rating on Goodreads. Alright, and the last book I read was also inspired by Japanese June, and this is a book I got a while back. But in December, my cat died, and then I could not bring myself to read this book because it is called The Guest Cat. And now that we have 2 kittens, I felt like I could handle reading about this situation again. But essentially, this is about a young couple. They're in their 30s. They don't have kids. They don't want kids. They both have careers. They work from home. And they're pretty content and satisfied. They like quiet. They're just kind of a peaceful family. So I love that this was set in modern Japan and had no magical realism, because every other work that I've read in modern Japan has had all this weird kind of psychedelic or magical realism aspect going on. And it's like, I just want to see like some straight realistic fiction out of Japan. So this was able to provide that for me. The essential plotline of the story is this young couple moves, and not too long after they move, this neighborhood cat starts just kind of poking its nose in the door, and before long they're like leaving out treats for it, and then they're like setting up a way for it to get in the house when it wants to, and then it's sleeping there some of the time. Now, it's not their cat. Some days it comes with different collars and things like that, so they know it has owners and another place to go. But it does seem to hang out with them a lot, and they really enjoy the company of the cat, both the husband and the wife. So time goes on, and things happen, and things unfold in the story. And it was just kind of a neat glimpse into what modern society can be. At a couple different points, the couple is looking for real estate, so that was kind of neat to see kind of how that thought process went. Things were described about like the neighborhood and household items and the layout of the home. And it had a lot of Japanese words, and I was able to Google and like look and see, and I was like, oh, that's cool, see what it was talking about. So there's a lot of other stuff going on in the book too, but it's a really short book. I think it's around 150 pages or less. And it was just really kind of a quaint little nice glimpse into modern Japan with no magical realism or kind of weirdness going on. So really enjoyed it and ended up giving it 4 stars. So that's what I've read. I'd love to know if you've read any of these or plan on reading any of these. Thanks so much for watching, and happy reading.